My in-depth study focuses on Northern Ireland and the conflict there, also called the Troubles. How has the Troubles shaped the current situation in Northern Ireland? To understand this conflict in Northern Ireland, we have to look at the history. The Trouble was a reaction to decades of oppression. This conflict has its origin all the way back to 1541 when Henry VIII brought Ireland under English domination. Henry and his daughter Elizabeth I wanted to colonize Catholic Ireland and therefore started with the most fertile part, Ulster. In the early 1600s, Protestants settled in Ulster to take over and control the land. This is the very beginning of what later turned out to be a long-lasting conflict between the nationalists, the remaining Catholics in the area, and loyalists, Protestant settlers brought over by King Henry VIII. Following with the Battle of Boyne in 1960, where William of Orange, Protestant, defeated King James II, and in 1801, when Ireland joined the Union, bringing more conflicts to the table. The Union was not what they pictured, and the Irish wanted internal self-government. Ireland parted with the Union in 1921, leaving the northern part with the Union, giving birth to Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland was now mixed with Protestants and Catholics, where the Protestants had a clear majority. They stayed true to the Union, oppressing the opinions of the nationalists that wanted their independence. By the 1960s, nationalists had been pushed around for too long. With bad housing and poor jobs, they were being discriminated against. This resulted in a civil rights march organized in Derry, or Londonderry as the loyalists would call it. The peaceful march escalated into a clash between the Ulster police and the nationalists. The years that followed brought more confrontations, and the whole situation was tense. In 1969, the British sent soldiers to Northern Ireland, stating the situation was out of control. The IRA mobilized to defend the nationalists from the British soldiers that actually claimed they were there in favor of the nationalists. Then came Bloody Sunday, and it was originally a peaceful nationalist demonstration that turned out really bad. This incident became a turning point in the ongoing aggression between the two. Northern Ireland was not far from civil war at the time, but luckily they avoided that. The IRA realized that they would never have the means necessary to overthrow the Brits, so they changed their approach and became more violent. The aim was to push the Brits to make the decision to leave the province. They planted car bombs in England and in pubs and department stores and claimed it was a political expression. The year 1985 created bigger possibilities for peace when both political parties in Ulster and the Irish government was working to solve the conflict. Even America took interest in the matter, and President Bill Clinton wanted to bring peace to Northern Ireland. With the new Prime Minister, Tony Blair, things were looking more promising. He demanded a ceasefire consent from the IRA if there were to be any talks of a multi-party government. This resulted in one of the more positive happenings in some time, the Good Friday Agreement, that was designed to open for self-government. The people behind this were the two party leaders, David Trimble and John Hume, that was later rewarded with the Nobel Peace Prize in 1999. The agreement, however, was difficult to implement, and they renegotiated it in 2007, calling it the St. Andrews Agreement. Many people believe that the conflict in Northern Ireland is caused by religious disputes. This because of the discrimination of the Catholic minority by the British Protestants. In the beginning, this might have been one of the reasons, but the conflict focuses mainly on which of the two have the most rights to the land and to govern themselves. The nationalists claim they were there first, and the only reason they cannot govern themselves is because they were invaded and discriminated against. The Unionists were sent there to control the land and they did not have a choice, so they settled in. And since they were a majority, they felt like they had the right to govern. And this created years with conflict. Now, the conflict has changed, and we are faced with two political identities seeking two different options regarding the constitutional belonging. They are closer to peace than ever before and trying to integrate the two traditions in, for example, sports and education and even politics. Even though there is much more equality between the two, many Catholics are still unhappy about the situation. Bringing us back to my introducing question, how has the Troubles shaped the current situation in Northern Ireland? Looking at the history, we do see that Troubles was more or less unavoidable, and it has set its mark in the society in Northern Ireland today. Today, Northern Ireland is a place you can visit without fearing for riots and violence. However, you can see how affected this place has been. Everywhere you go, you can find murals with militant images and churches with steel mesh protecting the stained glass windows. Like Berlin, the city was divided by a wall. This wall is still standing today in Belfast, in contrast to the Berlin Wall that was torn down in order to create peace. People in Belfast claim that they have normalized the city without having to tear down the walls. This reminds us of the history and the long-lasting conflict that has to a very high degree shaped Northern Ireland today. On one side, dealing with the current situation, you have many people seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and are positive to a more equal society. And then on the other hand, you have people that are more probably hit more hard, that are hit harder and are still holding a grudge. On a Northern Irish webpage, I found this quote here on the PowerPoint. Our economy is thriving, new industries are being created, cities are being revitalized, with millions being invested in regeneration. There is a new cultural vitality, pride, and optimism. Instead of emigrating, our brightest graduates are staying. Tourism is thriving too, with new visitors discovering our humor, hospitality, scenery, and quality of life. It is so positive and looking to a better future. Obviously, they are trying to get more people to visit Northern Ireland, but I found it worth mentioning that there is positivity in the air. And back to a more serious matter, in the article The Guardian posted on the 8th of May 2016, they're still talking about the two ideas of sovereignty. It's an ongoing issue and it's still going to be for a lot longer, but the difference now versus earlier is that the issues are conducted in a more civilized manner. To sum it up, the Troubles in Northern Ireland has shaped the culture, the people, and the politics of the province. These are my sources. Thank you.